Hey there, and welcome back to the Mini Weekend. I'm your host, Jack. Let's get into it, Minny. Holy wow. We're drinking the podcast. Tonight we went with the Dr. Pepper Blackberry, and holy moly, I really didn't know what to expect. I've obviously had blackberries before, but it's been a while and didn't know how these two, what I thought would be contrasting flavors would mix, and I'm actually really pleased. I really like this. Holy shit. If you like Dr. Pepper, you gotta go try this one out. These two flavors, the Dr. Pepper flavor and blackberry, very much complement each other. You get a little bit more of the blackberry, like up front, and then like the aftertaste is more Dr. Pepper. I am very, very pleasantly surprised. Pleasantly surprised. For those that have been watching for quite a while, I am a huge cherry flavor guy, and I would probably rather have this over some of the cherry or black cherry flavors, excuse me, that we've had on the podcast. Very good, very good. I love this off the bat. So yeah, that's what we went with tonight. If you go onto their website, I never realized, getting ready for the podcast here, just how many different flavors of Dr. Pepper there are. Obviously, you got the OG. You can't go wrong with that. But they have Dr. Pepper Blackberry. They have Blackberry Zero Sugar, strawberries and cream, cherry. I don't know that I've ever tried that. I'm appalled with how many flavors that they have. I've always been a big Dr. Pepper fan, and I am quite frankly pretty surprised that I haven't tried more of these. So we will have to get right on that. But yeah, go check them out. It's just drpepper.com. You can find all their products. You can find out where you can get all of them, all that kind of stuff. But this one, the flavor details, it's pretty interesting, kind of funny. It says, ask yourself every morning, what flavor could Dr. Pepper possibly do next? The answer is blackberry. Dr. Pepper Blackberry sounds as good as it tastes and tastes as good as it sounds. It's bold, one-of-a-kind flavor, leaves you as curious as you are satisfied. But no more questions. Just close your eyes and savor every sip. And I didn't read that out loud until just right now, but could not have said that any better. I might even go as far to say it tastes better than it sounds. Because like I said, your casual fan would say, I don't know if these are going to mix well, and I'm just going to come out and say it. I'm going to give it a 9. I'm going to give it a 9.4. It's different. It's unique. One of the things that we like to do here on the podcast, again, for those that have been around, we like to try new things and different things. And I have to say, I don't think I've tried something with this kind of flavor for a while, and I really like it. So I'm going to give it a 9.4. My next soda run, we're going to have to get more of these. Very, very, very carbonated. Excuse me, almost more carbonated than most of your sodas. But if you know anything about me, is that I have a bit of a sweet tooth. So anything that'll keep me from drinking one of these in 2 minutes is good, because something like this, like, I love sodas and everything, but I don't need to be sucking down 5 of these a day. If I can make a soda last half hour, 40 minutes or something like that, I really only need one a day. So yeah, like I said, 9.4, really like it. If you like Dr. Pepper, I urge you to go try it. For those that do like Dr. Pepper and have probably had more flavors than us, let us know what we should try next. And that's what we got for during the podcast tonight. You can find Dr. Pepper. They have an Instagram page, they have an X page, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. Like I said, drpepper.com. They have this interesting, I didn't spend too much, Doc AI recipe. Excuse me. So it says Tasty and Dr. Pepper have joined forces to bring you Doc, your personal movie night chef in chat box. Just answer a few quick questions and Doc will serve you up a one-of-a-kind, easy recipe, perfectly paired with your favorite film genre and Dr. Pepper flavor. So it's, okay, I thought it was just how to make stuff with Dr. Pepper. It is not. That's pretty cool. But yeah, they got some perks coming up. You can play certain games on the website. They got merch, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, go check them out. Go check them out. Like I said, if you are a big Dr. Pepper fan, please let us know what we should try next over here at the Mini Weekend. So with that, have a little bit of news today as far as the Tommie Town is considered. So just yesterday, it was announced that St. Thomas is going to host Providence to open the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena. Yes, you heard that correctly. The University of St. Thomas Director of Athletics, Dr. Phil Eston, announced the official opening date for the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena after beginning construction in winter of 2024. And the doors will open on Friday, October 24th, with both Tommie hockey programs hosting the Providence Friars in a state-of-the-art facility. Puck drop for both games have yet to be announced. But it's going to be pretty interesting because, like I said, it'll be on the 24th of October, which means for the women, they're probably going to be on the road for the first 3 weekends, which is kind of odd. The only reason I say that is because looking back in past, it looks like the women's hockey team has usually started the first weekend in October, while the men have started that second or third weeks. Nope, second, because we know they're opening the season with the Fighting Hawks with that home series. So it'll be interesting to see the women's team on the road for 3 straight weekends to open up the season, but neither here nor there. And yeah, the both hockey programs are obviously going to be the first to compete in there. Men's and women's basketball usually don't start getting underway until usually that last weekend in October, sometimes even the first week in November. But needless to say, I will be there this fall, so get your tickets. As of right now, you can still only get season tickets. Like I said, they have not really even announced outside of the men's season. They've only announced the home opener on the 24th and 25th, technically, and then 24th, 25th, and then for the men's team, they're opening the season against the North Dakota Fighting Hawks up in North Dakota, and then at the XL Energy Center. So super excited. Can't wait to get going. And obviously, the no news on the football team, but the closer and closer we get and keep doing these episodes, we get to Tommie football and college footballs. That is all we have. But big news in terms of the Lee and Penny Anderson Arena. Last thing I gotta say, Lee and Penny Anderson Arena, that is just a mouthful. I think last week when we were on, I mentioned I was at the baseball game with a brother-in-law of mine, and we were just walking around looking at the campus. Still looks beautiful. Looking at the arena, and we both kind of agreed. We're like, at some point, they should just abbreviate it and shorten it to the Anderson Arena. Like Lee and Penny Anderson, wonderful people. Never met them, but obviously can't thank them enough. St. Thomas obviously can't thank them enough for all their donations. But Lee and Penny Anderson Arena, that's just a mouthful. So again, not trying to be disrespectful, but I think it's just easier just to call it Anderson Arena. And I'm sure down the line that's what's going to happen, but what do I know? So yeah, like I said, pretty quick this week as far as Tommie Town is considered, which will get us into our mini weekend bets. And right off the bat, it kind of hit me today getting ready for the podcast that I have been bad. Obviously, I haven't gotten much issues with you guys listening to our picks and our bets and everything like that. But starting off this week, mini weekend bets, once again, I am not a financial advisor. So whatever picks and bets and stuff like that I say on the podcast, tread at your own risk. I'm not liable for losses. Just like if you win, I'm not going to come after any of your winnings. So with that, as of last week, we were 7-3. This last week, we went 1-2 and are now looking at 8-5. Took a little bit of a hit. Obviously, only 3 games hit. One of the picks I gave you last week was a future pick for the Vikings, so we're going to have to wait and see. But that one's going to cash. So yeah, just really quick a summary. The Washington Capitals did lose that game to Carolina 1-3, and unfortunately got bounced from the playoffs. The one win from the week was the New York Knicks did win and cover the 2.5 points, 119-81 over the Celtics to advance to the Western Conference Finals. And then the Panthers actually lost game 6 before advancing in a commanding game 7 against the Toronto Maple Leafs 0-2. So, like I said, 8-5, still hitting at a 62% rate. Not terrible, not great, but like everything else, we always bounce back. So, needless to say, moving on, we're leaving those in the rearview mirror. And the first pick I got for you guys is actually the Wolves and Thunders game 2. At the over-under right now, it's sitting at 214.5, and I really like the under in this one. I think we saw in game 1 before we dissect that game 1 and kind of talk about the playoffs so far. One thing you saw apparent was both teams play exceptional defense and are going to make the other team work and earn every single point. I know 214.5 points seems pretty low, all things considered. That's what 107, 108 points piece to hit, but with how tough both of these defenses are, I really do see most of these games very similar to that Golden State series, being relatively low-scoring games. Excuse me. Plus, when your best player in Anthony Edwards only attacks the rim once in a game, it's really hard to expect a result. And honestly, that's exactly what happened to the Timberwolves in Game 1, as he went for just one layup dunk, with the rest of his attempt being jump shots. Not only that, but as a whole, we shot 51 threes, which is just catastrophic. Very similar to that Game 1 loss against the Golden State Warriors. We started off kind of hot, and then we just kind of kept shooting them, and we kept shooting them. We missed a ton, and then we just kind of had that mindset of, let's just see the next ones kind of go in, and it just never happened. So some dramatic adjustments are going to have to be made for Game 2. And I fully anticipate the Wolves attacking, or at least trying to attack the basket more, trying to get this defense to kind of give them some space to take some more open and uncontested mid-range or even three-point shots for Game 2. And as for the Thunder, they'll be extremely happy, obviously, after winning that series opener. But as 16 of the last 17 Western Conference teams that have won Game 1 at home have gone on to advance to the NBA Finals, this will be the 16 of 18 after this is over. But yeah, like I said, OKC really didn't get much going. They outscored the Minnesota Timberwolves 70-0 in there. And truthfully, I can never pronounce this guy's name, Mark Daigneault, I think. I don't think you're really messing with the game plan much in Game 2. But like I said, I really anticipate these teams just going at it defensively. And yeah, I think this is going to be another close one without. And like I said, more than anything, it will hit that under 214.5 points. And then there are a couple of MLB games tomorrow that I actually really like. So the first one, the Milwaukee Brewers and the Pittsburgh Pirates are playing tomorrow night, Thursday, at 5:40 p.m. I'm not gonna lie, I like the under 9 runs in this one. It looks like Carlos Rodriguez is starting for Milwaukee. He's making his 2025 debut. Last year, he finished with a 7.3 ERA and a WHIP of 1.78, striking out 9 batters with 3 home runs in 12 and 1/3 innings. And he put up really good numbers in. And yeah, I think right now Milwaukee is batting they're batting 228 against right-handed starters. Their bullpen has an ERA of 3.23 and their 29 night games. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh bats 1.97 in their last 6 games. Milwaukee is 14-5 to the under in May, and Pittsburgh is 10-1 to the under facing NL teams, with a slugging percentage of 390 or lower this season. So like I said, take the under 9 runs in this game if you are an MLB better. And the second one, like I said, is a different MLB game. I like the Boston Red Sox taking on the Baltimore Orioles. And in this one, I just like the money line. Right now, it is minus 112 for the Red Sox. And yeah, it's at home for the Red Sox. I know a lot of people are high on Baltimore after the year that they had last year, but right now Baltimore is batting just 220 on the road. The Red Sox hit 257 at home. The Orioles bullpen currently has an ERA of 5.29 in the past 30 days, with the Red Sox at 2.05. Baltimore is 4-14 in their past 18 games, with a minus 12.5 unit loss. Meanwhile, the Red Sox are 9-6 at home this year. For those that, again, have been around, I am a big numbers guy, so all the numbers are telling me that Boston is going to win this game. And then just like last week, I have 4 picks for you guys this week, and the last one is Game 2 between the Florida Panthers and Carolina Hurricanes. Will hit under 5.5 goals, and I'm sure you over-under bettors are loving this week. And if you like the spread, there weren't a ton of spreads that I actually really liked this week. So once again, we digress. But yeah, Panthers and Hurricanes under 5.5 goals. Yes, I understand in Game 1, the Panthers grabbed a 5-2 win, which with the loss continued Carolina struggles in the conference. finals, as they've dropped now 13 consecutive Eastern Conference Finals games since 2009. However, this is why I like the under. The 5 goals that the Hurricanes allowed in Game 1 are the most they've allowed in a game so far this postseason. And if Rod Brendamore's squad is going to even up this series in Game 2, they're going to rely on a lot of their defense and getting the pucks out. Carolina still outshot Florida 33-20. And another thing worth noting is, despite the poor performance, Frederik Andersen for the Hurricanes has a strong 1.74 goals against average and a 913 save percentage in the postseason. So like I said, look for Carolina to come out strong defensively, which could give Andersen a solid chance to bounce back. And then on top of that, Sergei Bobrovsky has had a couple games against the Maple Leafs in this last round, but he seems to be back on track, making 119 saves on 125 shots over his last 5 games after 7 total goals were scored in Game 1. I anticipate Game 2 being a lot lower scoring, so like I said, I like the under 5.5. So in summary, Wolves Thunder Game 2 under 214.5 points. Milwaukee Brewers and Pittsburgh Pirates under 9 runs. Red Sox money line over the Baltimore Orioles minus 112, and then the Panthers and Hurricanes under 5.5 goals. And that's what we have for this week for you guys with our bets. And then another really quick not really an announcement, but one thing I just wanted to add to. So for those that follow me on TikTok, I posted one of my videos this last week was the picks, the mini weekend bet picks that I had this last week. And I included the over under wins for the Vikings. And I had one person reach out wanting me to give their opinion on the Packers, and somebody else on Instagram wanted me to do, was it Baltimore, I think, or maybe the Steelers? So I just kind of wanted to piggyback on that. If you guys, like I always say, come and ask questions. Like I love doing this podcast for you guys. If you have a question or topic you want me to answer or address, please let me know and we will bring it up on the next podcast and shout you guys out as well. But whether it's on the podcast or you want me to make a reel on Instagram or a video on TikTok, let me know if you want my take on a pick or an over-under or anything like that. So don't be shy. If you don't want to be shouted out, just let me too. I have no problem with anonymity. But yeah, I love doing this for you guys. And truthfully, being the analytic freak not freak, but I'm a big numbers guy. I love doing this kind of research. So I'm getting more into it. So if you guys got any questions or anything that you want me to give you my take on to help you guys out, please, by all means, reach out. And then, as always, wanted to give a quick shout out to our friends over at UNRL. Currently, my undershirt that I got on right now is the ultra long sleeve, the coconut color. Super comfortable, super buttery, makes you feel warm, but not super thick that you put it on for 10 minutes and like right now in Minnesota and you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta take it off, I'm so hot. Super comfortable. I've been working out in the mornings with my 2 shorts that I got from them. All of their stuff is super comfortable. Unfortunately, the hat is not theirs, but like I said, go check them out, unrl.com. You will not be disappointed, especially if you're into athleisure or if you're just into clothes that you can dress up and dress down. Their pants are awesome. I think I have 1 pair of their shorts. And yeah, like I said, you guys have heard me ramble on long enough about them in the past, and right now I stand by them. So like I said, go check them out, give them some love. And now we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of the podcast. So with that, the NHL podcast, NHL playoffs is underway. Game 1 between the Stars and Oilers finished up about an hour ago or so. Excuse me. But as of right now, the Dallas Stars are up 1-0 on the Edmonton Oilers, and the Florida Panthers have actually stolen a home ice from the Carolina Hurricanes. And so far, I mean, aside from the fact that the Oilers just kind of fell fucking asleep in that third period, all 4 of these teams look solid. Obviously, the Hurricanes didn't win that game 1 like we talked about a little bit ago, but it's not because they had any shortage of shots. Outside of that game 1, I really do think all of these games have the potential to be really low scoring, have 2 of the better goalies in the league. You have Sergei Bobrovsky, who this year went 33-19-2 with a 2.44 goals against average and a 906 save percentage. Frederick Anderson went with a 2.5 goals against average and a hair under 900 save percentage. These guys, I mean, I guess Frederick Anderson's record isn't great or as good as you think it is, but both of these are goalies that have been solid in the past, continue to be solid, especially in the playoffs, and help their teams win. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think obviously looking at this, the Florida Panthers won it last year. They have a target on their back, and they're looking to make it back to their second straight. Spit it out, Jack. Their second straight NHL or Stanley Cup final. And if I'm being completely honest, I kind of want the winner of this series to ultimately win the cup because two things. One, I don't want the Dallas Stars to fucking win. And two, I'm kind of like not crazy about a Canadian team winning either. So, truthfully, if I had to pick, I'd probably say I'm rooting a little bit more for the Carolina Hurricanes. Obviously, they got to get their poop in a group, rebounding game two, but keep it low scoring, and win that one. And then just like I said earlier tonight, the Dallas Stars completed a huge comeback, scoring 5 of their 6 goals in the second period. And what was that? I mean, 1, 2, 3 of the 5 were on the power play. So, I mean, if you're the Edmonton Oilers, outside of that third period, I thought they looked really, really good. They got a power play goal themselves, and they got the first goal of the game, and were up 3-1. But if can't remember the name of the coach for the Oilers, I mean, you gotta stay out. If you're that coaching staff, you gotta stay out of the box. I mean, this team, the Dallas Stars, went 3 for 4 on the power plays. That's not always gonna happen, but yeah, if you're the Oilers, and you gotta emphasize you can't be taking bad penalties. But again, ultimately, I really could give a shit who wins this series. If I had to pick, I'd probably take the Edmonton Oilers to go back to their second straight Stanley Cup final. But because fuck the Dallas Stars, partially because they used to be the North Stars and then they moved, and because they're just in the Central Division. I don't really like them. So yeah, that is what we have for the NHL playoffs. And then for the NBA playoffs, so literally before we started going on here, the Indiana Pacers shocked the world, and the Knicks by a come-from-behind victory. It is worth noting, I did see it before we got on here. So with 2 minutes and 51 seconds left in the fourth quarter, Jalen Brunson makes a three-pointer to put the Knicks up by 14 points. Okay, the score at that point was 119-105. In the final just under 3 minutes, the Knicks only managed 6 points, and the Pacers were down 14. So they were unbelievable. I legitimately thought Tyrese Halliburton, as time expired, won the game, but upon review, his foot was just on the line. Then, shit, that Indiana Pacers defense was their defense was tough. They played hard. The Knicks played hard too. I'm not saying the Knicks played a bad game. I just think down the stretch, New York had just a couple too many careless errors, especially with that bad pass that went off of Jalen Brunson. But they just didn't take smart shots. It didn't look like they obviously were in a position where they were trying to get a 3 to tie the game and everything like that. But down the stretch, they just weren't good with the ball, and they showed that just like anybody else that they're beatable. And this is an Indiana team. We saw it against the Boston Celtics that if you let them hang around, they can get you. So don't fuck up. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this was a good wake-up call for the Knicks, for them to know, okay, this Pacers team is I don't think they took them for granted, or I didn't think they thought they were going to be easy, but now the pressure's on New York to make sure they don't go to Indiana down 2-0. So they got to do a better job of closing out the games if it's going to be close, and just being careful with the ball. And yeah, like I said, I anticipate both of these Western and Eastern Conference Finals series being very highly contested and very good series. And yeah, that's just how the cookie crumbled in this game one. And shout out to Tyrese Halliburton, who had a game. Let's pull that up here. He shot 12 of 23, so just over 50%, 31 points, 11 assists, 4 rebounds, and 1 steal. Neesmith had a pair of blocks. Miles Turner had a block himself. And then on the other side of the ball, Jalen Brunson obviously did his thing. He got 43 points on 15 of 25 shooting. Karl-Anthony Towns had a big game, 35 points, 12 rebounds. And really the only starter, Josh Hart, that didn't get in at least 16 points was him, and he finished with 8. But yeah, like I said, this will be a very tightly contested series. It'll be fun to watch. And yeah, you guys know how I feel about this series. Ultimately, the winner of this series, unless it's against the Oklahoma City Thunder, we all know it's not going to be. I want this, whoever wins the series to ultimately lose. But now we have that game one between our Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Lots of thoughts and a lot to dissect and take in after that loss. First and foremost, I think the most important thing for me to say right now is we did not lose this game because of the fouls. And again, the casual fans are going to say, why the fuck would you even bring that up? I think it was perfect. 22 fouls. Why would you even bring that up? We'll get into that in a minute for you casual basketball fans that didn't give a shit about the regular season and now are all hopped up come playoff time. But we did not lose the game, but it was a contributing factor similar to that game 2 loss in LA. And it's one of those things. You know what? I don't want to talk about that right now. So I will say we lost for 2 reasons. One, we shot 51 3-pointers and made 15 of them. Once again, no need to be shooting all of these fucking 3-pointers. We could not buy a 3-pointer. Our bench players couldn't buy a shot off the bench. The only guys that came into the game, non-garbage time minutes, Naz Reid came in, shot 1 of 11 from the floor, 0 for 7 from 3. Ante DiVincenzo, 3 of 14 from the floor, 3 of 12 from 3-point land. And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 3 of 11 from the floor, 2 of 9 from 3-point range. Couldn't buy a shot. So we lost this game for 2 reasons. One, we did not shoot the ball well. The only good thing about this game is Julius Randle. The guy shot 9 of 13, almost a perfect 5 of 6 from 3-point range, was 5 of 6 from the 3-point line, had 8 rebounds, an assist and a steal to go with 28 points. Outside of that, Anthony Edwards only shot the ball 13 times, and like I mentioned in our mini weekend picks, he only attacked the basket once, which is very, 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 very unusual for him. But sorry, I digress. We lost this game for 2 reasons. One, we forced too many 3-point shots and just shot the ball very poorly, especially in the second half as we were outscored. We were outscored 70 to 30. 70 to 40 in the second half. But the second reason we lost this game is not necessarily turnovers, but points off of turnovers. So the 2 things we kind of talked about before the series was we needed to be smarter with the ball and not give up turnovers so that they could get points in transition, and then rebounding. And if you look at the team stats, we were pretty even in rebounding. They had 40-42. We had 3 more offensive rebounds. They had 7 more defensive rebounds. But again, that's partially because we missed a lot more shots. But let's take a look at this graphic right here. Total turnovers for the Timberwolves, 19. 16 for the Thunder. So it's not like there was a huge discrepancy in turnovers. What there was a discrepancy in was points conceded off of turnovers. So the Timberwolves lost game 1 by 26 total points. In our 19 turnovers. We gave up 31 points off those 19 turnovers. Off of Oklahoma City Thunder's 16 turnovers, we were only able to get 10 points off of that. 31 minus 10, 21 points. Doesn't cover exactly the 26 points that we lost by, but that makes it a 5-point game. And if it's that much closer at the end, you're not trying to force 3-point shots to try to get back into the game. But another thing too, we could not buy a stop in the fourth quarter. We just couldn't. I want to say they shot damn near perfect in the fourth quarter. They scored 38 points in the third quarter alone. But now getting to the foul situation. I can't stand watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I don't remember talking too much about this during the regular season because obviously I don't watch the Thunder a lot. I watch the Wolves, so unless we're playing them, I don't play them a lot. But holy shit. I wish after watching the last quarter and a half plus overtime of the Knicks Indiana Pacers, I hope to God that going forward, that is how this series is reffed. It's playoff basketball. I'm not saying guys should be getting away with eye gouging and punching and forearm shivers and shit like that. I am not saying that at all. What I am saying is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, you heard Doris Burke. I'm gonna sound like everybody else out there, but it's true, and I want to highlight this point. You heard Doris Burke talk about in the first quarter him being a free throw merchant. He shot 7 of his 14 total free throws, from his 7 of his 14 free throws in the first quarter alone. And again, you talk about situational fouling, and they were tied. What was it? They were tied 22 fouls apiece. Let me throw this stat at you really quick here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander shot 11 of 14 from the free throw line. Between the two teams, the next player with the most free throw attempts was Anthony Edwards, who shot 7 of them. You had Jaden McDaniels, who I think had 2 or 3 fouls in the first quarter alone. Anthony Edwards had 2 fouls pretty early in the second quarter. Julius Randle played with 3 for a good amount of the time. Dante DiVincenzo had 3 off the bench. Naz Reid had 2 off the bench. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was called for 1 personal foul. And with Anthony Edwards picking up his 4th foul at the end of the third quarter, key part in the game, he didn't play the last, after he picked it up, he got taken out for the last minute and a half, 2 minutes of the third quarter, and then didn't play the first 4 or 5 minutes of the fourth quarter because our best player was in fucking foul trouble. So I guess there are 2 things that I hope to God get changed in the series. One, I hate that I'm actually going to say this because I wish they would just let the guys play. But if you're going to call every ticky-tack, oh, he touched me, thing from Shai, you have to call that on the Wolves too. And if you're not, that is totally fine. I am more than happy for them to let us play and for them to only call big things. I would encourage that. I love watching that kind of basketball. Do I want to see guys get beaten up? No, but it's playoff basketball. You have to allow for more contact. Games should not come down to who's shooting more free throws and from the free throw line. It should be coming down to who's able to make the big shots, who can get separation. The last thing I will say on this is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander foul baiting is not just bad for that game, it is bad for the NBA and basketball in general. That was not a good basketball game last night that was played because of all that bullshit. There wasn't much flow of the game. Usually there's runs. I say it all the time. Basketball is a game of runs. You just hope you're the team that finishes the game off on a run, right? But with that said, all those ticky-tack, dumbass fucking calls and fouls that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA got, there was no flow of the game. And if I'm being completely honest with you guys, if you are watching this podcast and you can honestly tell me that was a good game that was a good game that was played last night between the Wolves and the Thunder. That's all I need to know about you as a basketball fan, and I don't want to be friends with you because that, my friend, if you knew anything about basketball, was a horse shit of a game. And again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there weren't fouls called on the Timberwolves. There were, but we don't have players on our team that are foul baiting, that are looking for calls. I don't know what the answer is, but I think if you're the league, if you're the refs, you got to talk to Shea and say before game 2 and say, listen, we fucked up game 1. We're not calling that stuff. Like, knock it off. Or you say, hey, we're going to call everything and just, let this turn into everybody taking 10 plus free throws a game, which I personally don't want to see. But hey, you at least have to call it both ways because it's not basketball. It's not basketball to be looking for fouls every now and then. Now, if you're able to get a guy in a position where you can, get contact and get, the foul and the bucket, by all means. But if you watch Anthony Edwards, I saw so many clips of this all day long today and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, quite frankly, it's really pathetic to see how Shea Gilgeous-Alexander plays the game. And I got to tip his hat to him. It was announced earlier today that he was an MVP of the league, and he is very talented. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like he is the bottom of the league. He is definitely one of the top players in the league. In fact, this year he was the top player. But I guess that is that is part of what pisses me off about him, is that that's a bad look for the future of the NBA, because you do not want young players looking up to a guy like SGA and thinking, I can do that. And if I do that, I can make it to the NBA. Fuck that. No, you can't. Like, that is not basketball. You should, I don't even really like when Ant or anybody else on our team is doing this thing. Like, there are so many guys in the league that, they go up, they make a basket, whether they get it or not, they just keep doing their thing. Don't complain. Like, it's playoff basketball. You should have the mindset of, hey, these guys are going to let us play. And I've talked about it in the first series too. If you want to say something to a ref, fine, by all means, do your thing. But don't do it in the middle of a play and let your team give the other team 2 or 3 points because you didn't come back on defense and your team was playing 4-on-5. So like I said, I think the biggest thing for the Timberwolves is they have to come out more aggressive and driving the lane and trying to get open shots in the first half, open that up. I mean, like I said, if nothing else, if you're the Timberwolves, you got to make the refs blow their whistle if you're going to drive the lane. Anthony Edwards and these guys are freak of natures. Like, half the time you go down the lane, you get hacked, and if you hear the whistle should go off. So, like I said, I don't know that I said this yet. I'm not really all that concerned yet. We talk about the adage all the time, especially in the playoffs. It's not a series until a away team wins. OKC was supposed to win because they have a home court advantage. It was not a good second half for us, but the Timberwolves need to do a better job of holding onto the ball. When they do give up turnovers, they got to get back on defense and not give them easy points. Got to continue to be big on the glass. And with that, they got to be smarter with their shots. They got to drive the lane. They can't be settling for 3-point shots, especially when they're not dropping. And they have to create more stuff for themselves and get into rhythms and hope to God that the reffing changes in game 2 and stays consistent and stays that way for the rest of the series. So that is what I got for you guys. Like I mentioned in the mini weekend bets, game 2 will be tomorrow, Thursday, May 22nd at 7:30 p.m. And then the last thing we had on the docket for you guys was there's no new news for the Vikings this week. However, the NFL owners got together in Minnesota earlier today, kind of getting ready for the season, and there were essentially three big things that they voted on, and we will get into that. So the first one, was voting on whether to ban the tush push or not. There's 32 teams in the NFL, so I don't know why they came up with this, but for anything to get changed, there needs to be 24 votes for or against something for it to get overturned or for it to go. There were 22 teams that voted to ban the tush push, and 10 teams that did not go for it to get banned. And apparently, I didn't hear specifics, but apparently it got heated. I go back and forth on the tush push, truthfully. I think it's kind of a cheapo play. And on one hand, I think it's kind of a cheapo play, but at the same time, I think a lot of competitors bring up the point of, hey, figure out how to beat it. I think this last year there weren't very many injuries as a cause or effect of it, but not last year, but the year before there were. So I feel like if it got brought up between 2 years ago and last year, maybe that would have helped it get banned, but it didn't. So you talk about one of the winners coming out of these votes. The Philadelphia Eagles are that. And I think, if I'm being completely honest, I think part of the reason I think it's kind of a cheapo play is because when you like gang tackle on the defensive side of things, like I just think part of it for me is it's getting increasingly harder and harder for defenses to play defense. You can't touch a guy before the ball comes. You have to wait for this, you have to do that. If you gang tackle, so like let's say you get to the 10-yard line, like there's forward progress. If you get to the 10-yard line and I gang tackle you and I have guys pushing me back, I can't bring the line of scrimmage back to, if you're going to try to score on 10-yard line, I can't bring you back to the 15-yard line. It stops at the 10-yard line. However, if you're on the offensive side, you get pushed from the back, you can keep going, which I think is kind of BS. So I think if you can run the tush push without being pushed, I think the whole pushing forward and that part being the cheapo part of the play, that is what I would agree with. But, neither here nor there. Honestly, I prefer for it to go away, especially when I'm watching the team I want to win against the Philadelphia Eagles. But that's that. And then the second biggest, one of the other big three things they, excuse me, voted on was the NFL players with Olympic aspirations. So they officially announced that if NFL players wanted to, that they could participate in the 2028 flag football games at the Olympics, which is super cool. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, I was not surprised by this. I didn't think Goodell would have an issue with it, especially with it being flag football. Um, I think it's really cool, and it should be really fun to see guys like Justin Jefferson, Jaden Daniels, Jameer Gibbs, Miles Garrett. Some of those guys playing in a couple years. Obviously, the Summer Olympics won't be here until 2028, so we could see some of the younger studs and maybe not so much of the older guys. And then the third big thing they did was playoff positioning. So the Detroit Lions of all teams introduced a rule that essentially says if you're a division leader, you're guaranteed a playoff spot, but playoff spots are more determined based off of your record instead of you being a division leader. Unfortunately, they rescinded that rule change before votes could get in on it. So essentially what their rule change would have done last year would have made the Vikings the third seed based off of their record, but not being a division winner. So, essentially going forward, it's going to pay to, it's going to essentially be more important. I can see this one getting changed within the next couple of years because especially in the NFC, if stuff like that continues to happen where you have, the Detroit Lions who finished with a 15-2 record, the Vikings who finished with a 13-4 record, and the Packers who maybe finished with a 12-5 record. The Vikings and Packers shouldn't be the 5th and 6th seed, especially if Tampa Bay wins their division and they went 8-9. So I could see that one getting changed within the next couple of years, but unfortunately that did not get really voted on, but that was like the third big one. And then there were a couple other smaller things that they got voted on, like onside king stuff and all that boring stuff. So yeah, that is what I have for you guys this week. As always, like I said, please do not hesitate to reach out or to send any direct messages or emails over to me. If you guys have any questions, have any topics you want us to address on here, please reach out and we will, like I said, we'll also give you a shout out. Yeah, per usual, go follow us on all your social media sites that you frequent. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to TikTok and your podcast listening site so you get notified of the new episode as soon as it comes out. Till next time, Minny.